been a while since we have one of these things. This is the Audi Q6. Now for those that don't know, we've had a long road to get here. And it started off with Audi. Yep, matter of fact, the channel was called Audi Sport Mike. And I worked for Audi for 17 years, so I know this product in and out. But not anymore. This is the all-new Audi. Not just the Audi Q6, but it's an all-new Audi in itself. The Q6 has never been in North America. Well, at least on this channel. It was the Audi A6, but we never had an SUV version. And this is a cool looking, perfect mid-size SUV from Audi. I love this color, by the way. It's Daytona Gray. Daytona Gray was one of the best colors, especially when it came out in the first generation Audi R8. Anyways, here it is with the Audi Q6. At least I think it's Daytona Gray because I have not reviewed an Audi in such a long time. Now, Audi, the brand in general, has just been kind of bland and blah. The A4, the Q5, the Q7 have never changed. They just look the same. They look the same for such a long time. Even now, after 5 years of not being with the brand, I'm like, yep, the Q5 looks exactly the same. But this is a different year for Audi. This is where they're going to redesign all their models, starting off with something that looks like this Q6. So this is a taste of what the future of Audi will look like inside and out. So starting off with these headlights, they're a lot thinner than they used to be, but it's not the focus here with all its signature different styles when you walk up to the car. It gives you all these animations. It's not that. It's the fact that now the high beam and low beam are down here. Yep, this is the first time that Audi has a split design front lighting system. Up here, it's just DRLs and a bit of a signature move. I'm not sure if you guys can see it from there, but right here, I can't see a whole lot. I actually have to shift my eyes here and then it brightens up. From here, it's pretty much dark. Now this is an S-line model, which means sport for Audi. And that includes a lot of black trim, a little bit of cutouts when it comes to the bumpers, and a bit more aggressiveness that you don't normally get when you get the regular non-S version. And that's across the board with Audi. Now in the center here, this is an electric vehicle, so there are no openings. It's completely closed off. But I like how they've mixed in the black and the Daytona Gray. And we film on a road that is full of trucks. Yep, because we are no longer in the studio. We are out here in the bitter cold in Canada. And this is why I'm dressed this way. So from now on, this is what you're gonna see. But we're lucky in Canada. We have 4 seasons and we're in the heart of winter. Anyways, back to this Audi. This is an e-tron, as you'll see down here. Now, unfortunately, in Ontario, we have to have these ugly front plates. That's okay, it's not too bad. It's kind of built in for this. Now, above you do have your front upper camera. Now, look, obviously, most vehicles today do have 360 cameras. But what's interesting about something like this, of this caliber, when you're turning your wheel to back up, the camera actually shifts on the rear camera. So it's small details like this that makes Audi still have a special place in my heart. Now, as I come around the corner here, you can see this is an SUV. Yep, this is not a station wagon that's been raised. This is like 100% SUV. And this SUV is 3 inches longer than an Audi Q5. Now, if I start here, these are 20-inch wheels. I like how you do have these fender flares up here. And these things make the vehicle look wider when I'm standing right in front of it. Now, as I come down it, there's no decals on the side. There are fairly large mirrors, and that's nice to know. And you have this distance here, which is kind of unique because a lot of Audis are not this big. They're kind of smaller and they're tighter to the actual frame. Now, coming down here, again, you have the e-tron badge down here. You do have key in your pocket, walk up to the vehicle, it'll unlock, walk away from it, touch this little thing, it'll lock. Now you can see that it's an Audi Q6 e-tron, not just by looking at it, but they actually tell you right here. Ta-da, Audi Q6 e-tron. I've never seen that before. It even says Quattro. Yep. Now you do have black roof rails along the top. This does have a decent sized panoramic sunroof. There are 2 glasses on the top, and you do have a little shark fin in black. Now if you're wondering, is this a gas cap? Do I put gas in it? Again, no, this is electric. And that's what makes it different between the Audi Q6 and the Audi Q5, and it is motorized. How cool is that? Check that out, it is motorized. Okay, now how do you close it? Do you push the button? Nope. Do you just push it? Maybe. All right, please don't break, please don't break. Now, before we whip to the back, I want to talk about the design aggressiveness of this Q6. Look at these front fenders, how wide they are. I talked about it, but it's the quarter panels that really shocked me. Look at this. It's just so wide. Again, this is an SUV that you just get out of the box. Now, this is an S-Line, but these things do not change. Look at all this down here, these cuts, just a lot going on. It's just not really Audi's style. Audi's been fairly quiet, but this is a little bit different. Now, if you're wondering how far you can drive in your Audi Q6, well, it has the longest range of any SUV from Audi. You can get 494 kilometers worth of distance when you charge it to 100%. Now, Ian, put that in miles somewhere here or here. What about charging? When you charge this thing from 10 to 80% at a 270 kilowatt hour plug-in battery charging location, if you can find one, it takes about 22 minutes, and that is not too bad. But it's the 0 to 10, like all batteries, they struggle. And then from 80 to 100, that's what takes a long time. So if you're just using it from A to B as a second vehicle, I always find that electric cars are a really good choice. I own one myself. I know, it's crazy. Now the back here, yes, it is electric. So a few Audis already have this rear sort of center light across. But generally, Audi speaking, you don't have this. You just have two individual lights or a single individual housing, not this center bar here. So this is sort of cool and funky. Now, starting at the top here, you do have an extended wing, or it appears to be. You do have a third brake light. Again, Audi, I don't know why you do this, but you got to really move this rear wiper. I've been complaining about this thing for 20 years. You got to move this thing underneath. That's where it looks the prettiest. It makes the most sense. And with the snow and ice we have in Canada, this does have the ability to brake. Now, this rear Audi and front, I might add, looks illuminated. I'm not sure if it actually is because you can't force the lights on in this Q6. You can only have auto or put the DRLs on, but you can't force the lights on. Then I would know if that's illuminated or not. Anyways, look at this. This is the Audi Sport badge with Q6. That's interesting because in the past, if you had this, that would generally indicate it's an S, not a S-Line. I find that odd, but hey, I guess you got to give everybody a little bit of the sauce. What can you tow in this Q6? 4,400 pounds right here of magic. Now, I will say in this weather, if you're towing 4,400 pounds in any electric vehicle, it's just not going to last that long. You're definitely not getting 494 kilometers. You might get 250, maybe 300 if you're lucky, because the cold does kill the battery in every way, shape, or form. Now, as I said, battery is getting better, and that is why there is no exhaust pipes on this. Anyways, all that said and done, let's go inside the vehicle and see how much room you have. Now, because I've been with Audi for so long, I can tell you that I appreciate that they haven't chopped their fit and finish or cut costs. All these corners are not sharp. Everything is designed to not cut you, and that was one of the things that they talked about back in 2006. They were like, Audis have the best quality. The fit and finish is money, and even here in 2025, it still stands true, which is nice to see. What about room here in this Q6? It's fairly deep. I will say that it feels like a little bit shorter here, possibly because of the battery. But then when I lift this up, it doesn't appear so. I just think here you have a ton of storage. Look how much depth there is. So there must be a lot of battery going on the floor of this Q6. But it's good for depth. Height, I would say you need a little bit more. You'd get a little bit more when it comes to Q5. And width, well, it's pretty much the same as the Q5. Putting the seats down, there is a handle. You pull, that does fold down. These are 60-40, but you can put the center in the middle, so it would be 40, there we go, 40, 40, and 20 in the middle. This one does have air suspension, so I push this button down, it can drop it so I can load stuff easier from the ground into the vehicle. But that's what it looks like in terms of the trunk here. What about storage? Well, there's some on the side, and there's a 12-volt plug on that side. Now it is cold and I'm on the wrong side, and Ian's trying to film this, but there is a 12-volt plug there, and this is what the seats look like with the seats folded flat, and my nose is about to freeze. So the back seat of the Audi Q6. Now, jump in, gotta smash your shoes to make sure you get the snow off. Let's jump inside here. Just love that solidness. Okay. Feels slightly less solid than a Q7 and about the same, maybe a hair smidgener. Yeah, as solid as a Q5. Now, these seats do not recline. They're simply one position settings. There's no handle on the side that I recline these seats. They just sit the way they sit. Now they are perforated here. They do have heated seats, but let's talk about the comfort. Decent. They are bench seating, and yeah, it's definitely not as high-end as a Q8. It's about the same as a Q5. I don't really feel or notice any difference from a Q5 to this. Definitely this door panel is like out there when it comes to Audi. There's a lot of cuts, and cuts is just something that Audi doesn't normally do. Remember, 17 years of no cuts, just all round and plain and boring. And now we've got cuts and like dimension differences, because look, this faces upward, this faces towards me, and this faces downward. Just sort of different to see when you see this. Anyways, this has Bang & Olufsen, but there are 3 different sound speaker systems you can get. You can get a 10 speaker, a 16 speaker Bang & Olufsen, and a 20 speaker Bang & Olufsen with speakers in the headrests. Now, they are options on the Technic and standard on an SQ6, but there you have it. They're your choices. Now, this one does have Bang & Olufsen, so this one I assume is going to be the 16 speaker one. When I'm sitting back here though, I look up and I love it because this panoramic sunroof comes all the way back, so I will never feel claustrophobic back here, even though the headliner is black, because this is an S-line. And what about putting this down? Well, if I do have 2 cup holders here. Ooh, that is nice and warm. I don't know what it was heating, but it is warm. And look at this, more spaceship, very futuristic design. This is just not Audi in my opinion. This has always just been like maybe a Kia or a Hyundai or trying something unique. And now this is in an Audi. It's really interesting. Again, you do have your heated seats by pushing these buttons down on either side, and then you can adjust the fan speed right here. Now, in terms of connectivity, there are 2 USB-Cs hiding underneath this HVAC control. But what about space back here? It just feels a little bit, not tight, but kind of tight, right? Look at, it's a Q6. It should be a little bit larger than a Q5, but this feels exactly the same as a Q5. So then the question being is, I guess if you just want a cool looking electric Q5, then you buy a Q6. Just seems to make sense, but it's not bigger and it's not much better quality. It's just electric. At least that's what I think so far. Let's go to the front. Huge change. This does not look like an Audi at all. Oh my God. Okay, starting off with the headlights. They're no longer over here. They're in the door. Yup. If you want to put your headlights on, go from auto DRLs or the fog lights, they're in the door. Nice big wide little panel here. And it's pretty, I like that. And it makes total sense because in the past, you'd be like, is my lights on? You gotta crank your back, but no longer, it's right here. And then you do have like child locks in the back per side, all in one panel. You do have your memory seats, of course, you have 2 of them. And then of course the windows haven't changed. All Audis are just a one touch on all 4 corners, up and down. Now these panels or panes are dual, which means they're like laminated twice. So you have a piece of glass, you have plastic, and then you have glass again, and that makes it quieter in the cabin. But man, look at this screen. This is a massive curved screen. Like, Ian, move over so they can see how curved this screen is. Like, it is crazy curved. Oh my God. And can we get a shout out to Ian just for standing out there and bearing the cold, filming with me? Anyways, this is just not normal Audi, very futuristic, and I love how this is done. This is a very, very customizable screen. And the steering wheel is square, basically. It's got flat on the top and flat on the bottom. It does have the same perforations that it used to have back in the day with the S-Line. This part here has not changed, but this part here definitely. And this logo is completely new. It is a flat logo. It is not raised in any way. The pedals, they are the same. They have the same S-Line pedals they had forever. And the vents, sorry, this is me jumping around like crazy, but it's all these new pieces that I'm just not used to seeing. These vents, all this is all new. Like, look at this. This is something that they experiment in like a RS3 or something, but this is a Q6. This is for a discriminating buyer. So that discriminating buyer is just changed now, more youthful, more out there, more whatever. Now in front of me here, I have an 11.9 inch screen, a 14.5 inch screen, and right here that I've never seen Audi do, which I saw in the Superfast that we reviewed like 5 years ago, is this passenger screen, which I can see. It's not glared off, so I can't not see it. I can clearly see that says shade 45, 46%, 165 kilometers worth of range, and then of course the time and the date above it. And that is a 10.9 inch screen. So all this you can see is just so futuristic now when it comes to the new Audis, and it's been only 5 years since I left. Now, on the bottom here, you can see that you do have this centerpiece that sticks out, and then you have 2 vents, just like you saw in the back, 2 USB-Cs, a cigarette lighter, a good amount of storage here, including a wireless charger that does have a clip to hold your phone in. Your volume knob, which I like that they've kept, your drive select 4 ways, and of course stability program, do donuts in the snow, your start and stop button, and then here, this is a new thing. I've not seen this ever before in an Audi. It's just been shifters or little buttons, but here you have this front and back thing that goes reverse, neutral, and then drive or battery. And then if you want to put in park, there's simply just a button. That's how you put your camera on. This is how you put your 360, basically your safety net around you by hitting that button. This kind of looks Volkswagen-y, if I'm being honest, with all this piano black here and even this button here. That's just not Audi that I've remembered all those years. Underneath here, you do have a decent amount of storage there. And then if you look underneath here, this is where they're hiding now. The booklets and the paperwork is all underneath here, which is cool to see. Let me pull this out. There you have your first aid kit, which is awesome. And then your booklets underneath there. I like how they've used the perfect amount of storage here instead of having it in the glove box, because I don't know if you guys have ever owned Audis, but if you have, in the past, when you had your owner's manual in the glove box, you could not always close your glove box. It was kind of crazy to think, you just put it in the trunk. I know, what were they thinking? But now they've actually thought it through. Now here I will say, I would expect a little bit more. This is like a rubberized sort of material. This should really be leather, should it not? And it should be a little bit soft. This just feels a little bit hard. Just kind of unique pieces that I've noticed. I guess because they put all the money in these screens. And these screens are highly customizable, like super customizable. So let's jump in this 14.5-inch screen that is curved to me. This is the home screen that you see. You have your phone, which you can have on Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, or just regular Bluetooth. Then you have your Audi Drive Select, where you have a button down here, but I like to see it up here, where you have individual dynamic comfort, efficiency, and off-road. And then you have your charging, which has a whole new charging screen, which is this. You get to see this cool Audi Q6 right in front of you. Then you can set your charging target, and then of course, just a few other things like departure times, fast charging, and then to find an actual charger. But here is where all your menus are really picked. On this left side here, you have 8 different, I would call them icons, where you have your home screen, and then you have this button on the right. This button on the right gives you all your different widgets, where you have Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, and then more details about the vehicle, and then of course navigation, radio. And this is very GM, if I'm being honest. This is the first time I've seen it something like this, and I'm assuming that this is sort of a Google product, or maybe if it is in-house, they've just learned that having big icons that are easy to read is what people want. Maybe the demand out there of this has pushed Audi to do something like this, because just generally speaking, this is nothing that Audi would normally do. They would keep it like ultra simple. They would not have legal notes, maybe you have to have it, or accessibility. There's just a lot going on here, which is just not really Audi-esque in my opinion. And that's probably why they have these 8 little icons to sort of keep it to where they used to be. But something that's not that easy to use is something like vehicle. I hit vehicle, and if I want to change the lights here, so I hit lights, and if I want to change the interior lighting color, my ambient lighting, here's what I get to. Very pretty to look at and all this stuff, but there's a few buttons you have to press to get here. And I find that a little bit just too deep for Audi. This is something that BMW used to do over the years, and Audi used to just knock on BMW for having 2 or 3 different buttons to get to one menu. Audi seemed a little bit quicker. So there's just something I'm sort of seeing here. Now when I hit this button, you can see the brightness, I can adjust all this stuff. This kind of makes sense to have a few buttons to go to. This kind of does make sense here, your brightness and stuff, but oh, I want to tell you guys this as well. You can set the height of this, but it's because this does have augmented reality. If I'm making a left or a right, it'll show up on the actual heads-up display that I have to turn right or turn left, something we saw first on the Cadillac Escalade. And that's a cool feature to have. It just makes it so much more interactive and easy to use. And the world is going towards augmented reality, and I like that they have it here on this Audi Q6. As far as ease of use for HVAC controls, it is excellent. I put my finger here, I go left, I go right. You can see how it's adjusting it. Not in a crazy way, it just keeps it basically like a 3 or 4 degree difference from top to bottom here. If I want to go higher, obviously I can go higher. I can just keep going this way and I'll get more. But if you just have your finger on it and go left or right, you can see it's about a 3 degree difference either way. It does have heated seats. And if you just look at how the heated seats is done, I hit it, it sort of just moves up and then goes down slowly and down slowly and down slowly. That's really cool that Audi's kind of, instead of just putting a block, it's kind of just going off very so gently. Now this 10.9-inch display that's designed for the passenger has the same icons here where they can change the radio station just by hitting these buttons, and they can slide over and pick what they want, and they can override the driver once the driver's picked something. So the driver picks something and the passenger says, I don't like it, they can go in their own little menu here and change it. Now, if you don't have a passenger and this is annoying, you can actually just hit this button. You can either choose to shut it off, or you can have a screensaver. And that's it. This is a standby screen. All right, Q6. Now this is a dual motor. You can get it as a single motor in some markets, and that makes 322 horsepower. But when you get this dual motor, which is what I'm in right now, you get 456 horsepower, and this is supposed to go to 60 in just under 5 seconds. Now it's snowing out, so I'm not going to attempt to do that, but that's what you get, under 5 seconds, and that is pretty quick. So one thing I will say, no matter what it is, Audi just drive so well. They feel so solid on the road. And I know, like, if you blindfolded me and you made me drive this thing, or any Audi for that matter, I would know it's an Audi right away. I wouldn't be like, oh, this is a Mercedes, or oh, this is a Hyundai, or a Kia, or a Genesis, or
Caution,
any other.
road construction ahead.
Thank you. Ooh. Okay. It's so funny how electrics work, and how visuals are such a big part of that, which is why you have this ambient lighting, you have these sounds you can choose. But all that really means nothing. It's just about the drive of what Audi is, the softness and how it takes the bumps, right? The suspension has been excellent with Audi all throughout the years, and that's just what they do really well, the fit and finish, the quality. Now, obviously, the way the world has become, it's all going to be all about technology, and it's hard for manufacturers to just do something that's super unique. They all kind of have to do the same thing. They're all kind of the same thing, which is why electric vehicles in general are just, in my opinion, always really good for a second vehicle, never the first. Always a second, never the first. Remember that. Always a second, never the first. Always a second, never the first. I find that the world is just really wild, that you can get something that, oh wow, look, augmented reality. This is cool. I get these like red lights saying, don't stick to the car in front of you. But the car in front of me is filming, so that is okay. Yeah, so back to what I was saying. I find it really interesting that you can get a 456 horsepower vehicle that anybody can drive, whereas in the past, if you wanted in a gas car, you'd have to get like a RS Q6 if they had one. I don't know if they do or not, but they don't have it in North America, so we don't get excited about that stuff. But if they did an RS Q6, that would make 450 horsepower out of a V8 twin turbo, and people would be like, oh my God, this is crazy. And nobody would ever think about buying that for their family. And now, because it's electric, it's just a thing. Yeah, you want an SUV, you want an electric, it's good on, whatever, charging, I guess. You'd buy one. It just totally changed the game. Foot on the ground. 456 horsepower. Ian is in front of me driving, and we have our cameras on the back of the camera car, and it's cool to watch the snow come up, and this is going to be really good footage to watch. Whew! This is amazing. Listen to how quiet this is in here. Ultra quiet. And there's a lot of snow and salt on the ground out here, and it just sounds so quiet and peaceful and tranquil in here. I will be honest that in a lot of vehicles now, they're all kind of the same with this electric, especially when I'm looking in front. Like I'm looking in front, I have this heads-up display. Obviously, this augmented reality is cool. It's new. I haven't seen this before, besides being on the Escalade. But this is slightly different in terms of how the visual looks. But here, could be anything. I could be in any car. There's simply just a screen in front of me. Nothing that really pops out that this is an Audi, besides listening to it, the steering input, the steering feel, and just knowing that I'm in an Audi. Besides actually the seat. This is S-line seats, and they do have these leg extensions on the bottom. So I'm used to and familiar with the seat. So if I was sitting in this seat, I would be like, oh yeah, this is definitely an Audi seat. I will say that with these seats, they're not really designed for anybody much wider than me. The bolsters do stick into your back, left and right, so you need to be aware of what these S-line seats are. If you carry I'm 160 pounds, so if you're 300 pounds, these seats are definitely going to be too bolstered for you. So I would sit in an S-line seat first and see if it's worth the S-line package for you, because the seat in this specific one is different than what the regular seat would be. The one thing that's consistent with Audi is also the wipers, and Ian's in front of me spraying all this snow on me and slush, and these wipers are excellent. And this is something that people don't really talk about, but good wipers are key. And for out of the box, they have excellent wipers. They're quiet. They basically cover most square footage of the front glass in front of me. And yeah, I know it's kind of a silly thing to talk about, but it's just something I noticed, that I've noticed, because this is the first time in a long time I've jumped in an actual new Audi. The last time I was in an Audi was an Audi Q5, and that was in 2017, so that was a long time ago. Or maybe it was a 2020, I can't remember, but they all look the same, so what's the difference? Now, one of the knocks on the Audi Q6 is there's just not enough buttons. There's a volume knob, there's a start and stop button, but the screen itself is completely haptic, so you have to use your finger up and down. There's no pushies per se, but the steering wheel is haptic and pushies. So you push down on certain things that you want to use, say the heated steering wheel button. I push down on it, it says steering wheel heating on, and I push down on it, it's off. I can't put my finger over it and expect it to work, so which means it is a button. So yeah, at first glance, it's all digital, and it seems like there's no buttons, but there are certain features that are still buttons. Obviously, you do have your stocks, there's physical things you can touch, but everything is really into this screen. So all your radio stations, your HVAC controls, and everything that you want to customize is done in this screen. Besides, obviously, like I talked about, the volume, which I like. If they had a haptic volume, I would probably get really irritated. So I was thinking, why is Audi so jagged and edgy? And then I thought, well, who's its competition? Well, you have the Lexus RZ, and then you have the Genesis GV70 electrified, if I'm not mistaken. That's not really jaggedy, that's sort of premium, just like this. And then there's the Cadillac Lyriq, and that's probably where it draws some piece thinking, hey, if the Lyriq is all this, and remember, they didn't just design this car yesterday, it's been a long journey to design this architecture of this Q6. So they're thinking, you know what, we should make this thing electrified and future proof in some way and make it jaggedy, and that's probably where these door panels came from. The outside design, I would say, is not crazy jaggedy as much as these doors. These things really pop when you think, oh my God, is this an Audi? You would not look at this and say, this is an Audi. Anybody from like 5 years ago saw these door panels or even part of this dash and think, you know what, that's an Audi. No, never. But anyways, I don't know if you guys like this Audi or not, but let us know in the comments below, because this is what the future Audis are going to look like. This is like the first step to the future Audis, especially with the Q5 around the corner, which is going to be obviously one of its biggest and best sellers, as it's been forever. Because Audi sales are starting to sip a little bit. They're starting to sag. And that is really because they've had the same cars for such a long time, and they're waiting for that. I think they were thinking, you know what, we'll just use the Porsche theory and keep the exact same cars and just change a few things inside and see if people will not notice. But people are noticing. And that's where this Q6 is its first taste of what the future looks like for Audi. So, hope you guys like this video on this 2025 Audi Q6 e-tron. And I want to give a big shout out to Audi London for letting us borrow this Q6 for a review. And as I pass Ian, foot on the ground, peace! Thanks, Audi London.
Did not find any matching results.
Thanks, Audi London, for letting us have this car. And we'll catch you on the next one.